Recording in progress.
Welcome in the latest episode of the Bet in the Pitch Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, the real _ G Warner. Tonight, we are going through the top 5 European soccer leagues, trying to get you ready for the entire weekend's action, including Friday. We are 16, 12, and 2 on our ultimate best bets, 57% so far this season. What I do is I pick my favorite pick from England, Spain, Italy, France, and Germany, and I decide which one to make the ultimate best bet, which you then see on our reel at the real _ G Warner on Instagram, instagram.com/real _ G Warner, and also on YouTube, youtube.com/real _ G Warner, in their shorts feature. Without further ado, I'm going to be seeing lines for the first time here, so bear with me. I'm going to be taking some notes while I'm doing this, but as I have an Excel file, if anybody has any way that they track how these numbers move from when they open to when they close, I would love to not do it manually, but I do it manually just to get a good idea of what is going down. And we'll start where the money is, and that's in England. We'll start on Saturday morning, though there are some Friday matches which we'll get to later in the other leagues. And we'll start with West Ham hosting Sunderland. Currently, West Ham a pick'em with all the juice right now, plus money on Sunderland. Rare to see that. Total is 2.25, and it's juiced more heavily to over than it is to under. If you are not a member of BetOnline or sportsbetting.ag, their sister site, please let me know if you want to bet soccer, because you can get 16-cent juice on English Premier League matches, best across a very juiced landscape, and I can get you referral code, get you in there. Just hit me up at the real _ G Warner across any social media platform. So back to this game, I'm interested in fading West Ham. Yes, they can sometimes play better at home, but they're one of the worst clubs so far in the English Premier League. I don't see a ton of hope unless they just somehow finish in 4th bottom instead of 3rd to get relegated. Yeah, they might have spent a ton of money in January, but still, I don't really see a lot from their club. Their very defensive manager is not, I guess he doesn't have as much talent as he did last season at Nottingham Forest when they finished much higher up the table. And some of them have been great. Yes, they lost a lot of players to AFCON, but they're gradually coming back, and a lot of them should be in the lineup for this matchup. Be waiting, because I don't play road underdogs unless they're getting a quarter of a goal. So we're waiting to see that come. But based on where the price is and plus 107 on Sunderland at pick, there's a good chance we get that. And that's an early matchup, 6:30 Central Time, 7:30 Eastern Time on Saturday, the 24th of January. Also lean under 2.25 as well. Very conservative managers. That's probably my biggest interest in that matchup, but definitely interested for right now. Next, we'll go to Fulham hosting Brighton. Currently, Fulham a pick'em with almost all the juice. 14 cents of that 16 I already mentioned. Total in this one is 2.75, and it is juiced very heavily to under, considering these two clubs. Brighton started off the year scoring a ton of goals. Fulham have, I think, played a lot better this season than their results have shown. They lost a bunch of players, really important ones like Calvin Bassey and their center backs in their back line to Nigeria in the Africa Cup of Nations. So it's time for them to wake up. I think the pick'em is my biggest interest in this one. The total at 2.75 is pretty high. I have been adjusting my totals higher in the English Premier League, as it's not just bet under and walk away to the casino window and collect your winnings. But I do think the 2.75 is important. It's very juiced right now. We might lose this to 2.5. That price, I'm less interested. Would love to get a 3, of course, but the juice is not suggesting that. I think at this point for me, I'll lean to the home team. I'm just not a believer in Brighton, their new manager, who's been around for far longer than I should be calling him new. Next, we'll move to Manchester City hosting Wolves, as Manchester City are back in the title race. Wolverhampton are back in the championship, almost guaranteed so far. But they're only 1.75 goal underdog right now. All the juice on Man City. I expect this to move to 2. The books probably just don't want to have a push out there dangling, but I imagine it closes 2 or maybe even higher than that. Total in this one's 3.25, and I don't think I can do much with Wolves because I don't trust them. They're not very good, and when they fall behind, especially on the road, the under gets big-time danger. Moving next to Burnley hosting Tottenham. Currently, Burnley a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice. Total in this one is 2.25, and it's used very heavily to over, which is surprising based on how any Tottenham match has gone this entire season. I also got to say, Tottenham as a road favorite seems like something I'd like to be against. So those are two things I enjoy the idea of potentially fading. Burnley at home, really tough to back because they can't score goals in the promoted side. But Tottenham have looked the most conservative that they have and had Champions League midweek, so I don't expect a lot from them. Moving to the nightcap, the big one of the weekend on Saturday, though it doesn't seem that way. Bournemouth, a half a goal underdog at home to Liverpool with a little bit more juice on the Liverpool side. Total is 3, and it is juiced pretty heavily to under right now. And Bournemouth's defense has been horrible away from home. Not sure it's that much better at home. Unfortunately, they've been playing half or fullbacks at center back, and that's not a great strategy, especially when we're one of the lowest budget clubs in the Premier League. Liverpool, they've been a disaster all season, so road favorite is probably my biggest interest in fading, though it's a little bit shorter than I made it, which I guess shows the market likes Bournemouth a little bit. I'll wait and see where this number closes. We'll move to Sunday, and we'll start with Brentford, a half a goal favorite at home to Nottingham Forest, a lot because they've been a giant slayer at home pretty much all this season. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced more heavily to under, as it should be with any Sean Dyche match. It's a kind of a good comparison of managers because Brentford have scored a lot of goals for Keith Andrews. There's a lot of questions about him, especially early in the season, if he'd even stick around. But Nottingham Forest didn't even have Sean Dyche, had 2 managers before him. Dyche comes in and did an admirable job of stabilizing the club and is a great under bet, I think. So I imagine he'll go on the road and not entertain like his guy, David Moyes, who we'll get to in a little bit. As for the next matchup, same time window, 8 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. Also one more match in this window. We'll go to Newcastle, half a goal favorite at home to Aston Villa. Almost all the juice on Villa right now away. Totals 2.75, juiced very heavily to over, which pretty much says that this match is going to be played the way that Newcastle wants it because Aston Villa are a great defense, especially away from home. I imagine a lot of money will be on Aston Villa at these prices just because total's large, and Aston Villa have been one of the hottest teams across European football, any sport. Have done a credible job after a really poor, slow start to the season. They've been awesome since. Newcastle are great at home, and I don't take fading them there at St. James's Park lightly. But I think Aston Villa go in to defend, and you have that nice little situation where they push. You win a full bet, the +1/2, and it falls to a quarter, which it certainly looks like it might, but I don't know if it will. Though I do expect some Aston Villa money to hit. I think there will be enough sharp money to keep Newcastle as a half a goal favorite. We'll see if that happens. Move next to Crystal Palace. They're hosting Chelsea. Currently, Crystal Palace are a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice. Total in this one, excuse me for coughing, but I'm fighting through sickness. As the Snowmageddon was a couple years ago in Dallas. Now it's just the snow apocalypse coming in this weekend. Great timing, especially the NFL wrapping up its playoffs before the Super Bowl, of course. Crystal Palace half a goal underdog at home. Total is 2.75, and it's juiced more to the under. I'm really concerned with Crystal Palace and how they've had to play pretty much the same lineup all season, no matter if they're playing in English Premier League or in the Conference League. To me, they should have just played backups in the Conference League, but they didn't do that. Lost Daniel Munoz, lost Mark Gay for a little while, lost Chris Richards. So, they're really limited. They've been selling players off like Olise and Eberechi Eze to Arsenal and Bayern Munchen, who I'm actually wearing a t-shirt of. You can see if you're watching live on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. 5-star reviews are huge and comments are great. And if you make a bunch of them, we'll do an extra NFL Super Bowl props episode. But back to this matchup. Crystal Palace are my interest. I just don't know how good I feel about that lineup. It feels like it's falling apart every day. To the last matchup on Sunday before we get to a Monday matchup and then get you an ultimate best bet, we'll go to Arsenal, 1-goal favorites at home to Manchester United. United, pretty big favorite. Arsenal coming off a road trip to Inter in the Champions League. Total in this one is 2.75, and it is juiced a little bit more to over, which is, I guess, not a surprise. The biggest matchup and big rivalry, and certainly you could see some goals in this matchup, but I expect Manchester United to be extremely defensive, and I expect Arsenal to struggle to pull away because they have for a while, and they're going to really feel the pressure, I think, of Manchester City behind them, in front of them, in this race, because it was looking over for a while, and then Arsenal stopped scoring goals. To Monday with Everton, a pick'em at home to Leeds. All the juice on Everton. Total in this one is 2.25, and it's juiced pretty heavily to under right now, as it should be. Leeds have been improving. They're a really good home team, a big home crowd. Everton should as well, though it doesn't seem to be as dominant as Goodison Park used to be. But Everton as a pick'em at home to a newly promoted is very interesting to me. I don't expect David Moyes to be very expansive, so under is also an interest for me. And we'll see what happens where this number goes. I can't imagine Everton will close a pick'em on Monday night, but we'll see Monday night in the UK. As for a best bet from England on this weekend's pod, I'm going to go with Burnley Tottenham under 2.25 goals. I'm still interested if this falls, or excuse me, if it climbs to 2.5. I'd play it at 2.25. We'll see where it ends up going. That seems like a match where Burnley should be very competitive at home. They need to win matches and they can't score goals, and they've already had a goalless draw there very recently. We move now to Spain, Spanish La Liga, and do the same thing, get through all the matches, and then give you a best bet, and we'll move on to Italy after that. As I come down to the matchup on Friday, we have Levante hosting Elche, battle of newly promoted clubs. One club performing so far this season, the other can't score goals or can't defend or has a lot of problems in every matchup, it seems. But interestingly enough, Levante are favored at home. All the juice is on Elche right now. I'm very interested in Elche because they've been great. They want to play football. Levante have some of that interest too, but it's not been the same type of successful season. Elche want to score goals. That does put the under a little bit at threat, but 2.5 is bigger than I made it. It's pretty juicy at the moment. I don't hate a fall to 2.25 if it's there, but I think road team and underdog and under both fit my strategy. As anyone who listens to this podcast will know, including longtime Patreon subscriber Joe Dollar, who always wants me to bet favorites and over, but it's not part of my DNA. Or as we get to Valencia soon, you'll see it. They say it backwards, ADN VCF, because Spain sometimes just goes backwards compared to other Latin languages. We'll move to Saturday morning with Rayo Vallecano hosting Osasuna. Currently, Rayo a quarter goal favorite with all the juice. Total in this one is 2.25, and it's used very heavily to under. Osasuna been pretty much a bad road team for as long as I've been following Spanish La Liga. Rayo have been a good home team, so that's interesting there and certainly plays in those directions. I just don't expect a lot of goals in this matchup, so under 2.25 seems interesting. Looks like it's falling towards 2. We'll see if that happens or if our juice improves before kickoff on Saturday morning here in the United States. Moving next to ADN VCF, Valencia, they're a quarter goal favorite at home to Espanyol. They are, I guess I need to get the total. That's how I usually do it. Total is 2.25, and it's used very heavily to under. Welcome to Spain. Not expecting a lot of goals, and I don't either. I do like Espanyol, what I've seen from them this season. What I saw from them last season. They were awesome to stay in the league as a promoted club from the Segunda División last season. And Valencia, I don't know how anyone trusts them to score goals in any match they play. Moving next to Sevilla, hosting Athletic Club Bilbao, coming off of what might have been the swan song or the last matchup that actually mattered for them in Champions League midweek on the road at Atalanta. Sevilla are a underdog at home. It's pick 'em. All the juices on Athletic Club, and I'll be waiting to see this move to a quarter. Total is 2.25, and it's used very heavily to under, like every matchup so far on Saturday. And it should not really be a surprise. I don't really expect Athletic Club to score goals. Neither the Williams brothers were in the lineup on Wednesday in Champions League, so I just think it's a lost season, unfortunately, for those that were excited that Athletic Club could get back to the big-time European competition. To the nightcap on Saturday, we have Villarreal hosting Real Madrid. Villarreal currently a half a goal underdog at home, coming off of their own Champions League matchup, which didn't really matter because they had lost every match except for one draw out of 6 entering into this week. Total is 3.25, and it is juiced more to the under. Villarreal are going to try to defend Real Madrid. Real Madrid want to score and score and score. I think only interest for me really is Villarreal as a home underdog, but numbers not as high as I made it. It's probably one I wait to see where it goes. I do expect Real Madrid money to hit. Next, we'll move to Sunday morning. Atletico Madrid coming off of their own Champions League. They're 1.5 goal favorites at home at the Wanda Metropolitano, sponsored by some Saudi airline. Total in this one, spread is 1.5, and it is juiced a little bit more to the Atletico Madrid side. Mallorca are going to come in and just defend this whole time. Total is 2.75. It's juiced more to the over. I'll be waiting to see this hit 3. I don't know that I'll still want to play it because I don't have much hope for Mallorca staying in this game, but I just don't think they're going to score, and they're going to try to defend this whole time. Moving next to Barcelona, hosting Real Oviedo. Currently, Oviedo, 2.75 goal underdogs with all the juice. Total is 4, and it is juiced a little bit more to under. Now, this is this way because Oviedo can't score goals. That's why the spread's so big. And Barcelona, if they kill them, they might score 6. Not a lot for me there. Moving next to Celta de Vigo, visiting Real Sociedad. Currently, Sociedad are half a goal favorites as they're certainly on an uptick right now. Good result last weekend with Barcelona. Total is 2.25, and it is juiced very heavily to over. Celta Vigo coming off Europa League midweek. Real Sociedad are not playing it. That is a big advantage for Real Sociedad. I just don't really trust Real Sociedad to score goals. Still can't have it in a long time. So Celta, I guess, is of an interest for me, and of course, to under as well. Alaves then host Real Betis. Currently, Alaves a pick'em. All the juice on Real Betis right now. Total is 2.25, and it's juiced pretty heavily to under. Rinse, wash, repeat. I'm interested in Betis as if they move to an underdog. I don't think that'll happen, though, so there's probably not a lot for me here besides under. Alaves play a very conservative, defensive, physical matchups. Betis probably gets really pissed about that, would be my expectation. Excuse my French, but I don't know what to do with the side until I get Alaves as an underdog or Real Betis as an underdog. And we'll see how taxing Real Betis' trip to Thessaloniki in Greece was in Europa League midweek. What that lineup looks like, as they did rotate a fair amount for that. To Monday, Girona, quarter goal favorite at home to Getafe, who have not had a striker start in a match for a very, very long time. Total is 1 3/4. Because they haven't had a striker that played in a long time. Girona, you can't trust them. You can't trust their goalkeeper. He makes big mistakes. For that reason, I'm interested in Getafe, probably more so than under, because I don't play anything below 2. So I'll be waiting for that to come up. We'll see if that occurs. And now it's time for the ultimate best bet. And I think probably, there's a lot of under options on this episode for sure. I think the Osasuna under is most concerning to me because I don't know that Osasuna goes on the road and defends. They don't play very well there. I think Espanyol can score against Valencia. So Sevilla Athletic Club, I'll go under 2.25 because I don't expect goals in that matchup. We'll move next to Serie A in Italy, and we'll start on Friday with Inter Milan hosting Pisa, which is a newly promoted side against the most talented team in the country. Not a great setup for anything here. Currently, Pisa are 2-goal underdogs, and they have a total of 3, and it's juiced very heavily to over. Total's a little bigger than I made it. That's probably my biggest interest because you get an extra goal because I don't expect Pisa to score. And Inter Milan's defense is awesome, and they're going to keep this quiet. My biggest concern is they score a bunch of goals, and that causes some problems for a total under. Moving to Saturday, Como hosting Torino. Currently, Como, a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Total in this one is 2.25, and it's juiced very heavily to over. I feel like I'm just going to be a broken record here after, of course, when Italy follows Spain in this order. Como have not scored a lot of goals. They've gotten a lot of respect from the marketplace. I don't think either of those things really compute. But to me, Torino, they don't score, and they're going to go on the road to defend. So I like under 2.25 there. Might get 2.5 before kickoff. Fiorentina then hosts Cagliari in a battle of sides fighting relegation that only one was expected to be there, and that's usually the biggest danger because Fiorentina have been one of the worst clubs in Europe this entire season, especially in Italy. Cagliari are a 3/4 goal underdog. That's huge, way bigger than I made it. So I like that side, and I also lean under 2.5 as I expect them to defend. Big question, though, is the Cagliari defense away from home, away from Sardinia. On the islands, it's not as good on the mainland of Italy. But I'm still looking to be against Fiorentina as much as I possibly can until they show me something, because they really haven't, even with good players. Lecce then hosts Lazio, the nightcap on Saturday. Lecce 1/4 goal underdogs right now, all the juice on Lazio. Total in this one is 2, and it's juiced very heavily to under, and that reflects Lecce matches, which don't see goals because they don't really score them. That makes the side a little bit scary because they need to score at least 1 goal to win the bet, or at best, goalless draw, you win half. But sometimes that's enough for me, so I'm interested there. Moving now to Sunday, we'll start with Sassuolo, newly promoted to Italy, but have been pretty good, I think, so far this season. They're hosting another newly promoted, and that is Cremonese, both up after, I think, 1 year away. Total in this one is 2.25. It's juiced more to the over. Cremonese are a 1/2 goal underdog, though, and that's bigger than I expected, though reflects, I think, the performance of Sassuolo so far this season. I'm interested in the under and the underdog playing together in the same direction. Genoa and Bologna. Currently, Genoa, a pick'em. All the juice right now is on Bologna, who have been really running out of gas and had Europa League this week. Total is 2, and this one juiced all the way to over. I'll be waiting to see this one climb. I need to see what Bologna's lineup looks like because I feel like they're running out of gas. Atalanta then hosts Parma, coming off of their Champions League effort midweek. Right now, the spread is Parma 1.25 goal underdogs. at Parma and Bergamo. Total is 2.75, and it's juiced more to under, as it should be. I'm just not necessarily a believer in Atalanta's offense, and Parma really can't score. But I think I'm more interested in the total than the side. To a big one with Juventus hosting Napoli. Currently, Juve, a quarter goal favorite right now. All the juice on the home team. Total in this one is 2, and it's juiced more to under. We're just seeing the big matches in Italy just have the lowest totals you could ever imagine. But I guess that's a thing that will occur from time to time. I think at this point, I do lean under. That's a really big matchup, by the way. And then we got even, you could argue, bigger one, similar one next with Roma hosting Milan. Currently, Roma, a pick'em, which feels a little bit cheap, but they just really struggle to get over the hump against the big clubs, the Seven Sisters, or that I thought they were part of in Italia this season. And Milan have still shown to be resistant. No matter if they fall behind, they still get back in games. With a Roma scarf over my left shoulder, right on camera. I am interested in Roma as a pick'em because I think if this draws, I'm happy to take that risk and push rather than lose. We'll see what happens, though. There's a lot of juice on the home team right here. Last but not least, in Italia, we have Verona hosting Udinese. Currently, Verona, a pick'em, with a little bit more juice on Udinese. Total in this one is 2, and it is juiced more to the over. It's a classic Verona game. They're going to really need to win. They're a pick'em. It's really hard to bet them because if they're a quarter goal underdog, I think it'd be a lot easier to play. Under 2 makes sense with Verona as well because they've struggled to score goals so much, and every match seems to be hard for them, which is not great, but it does leave it pretty entertaining. And you just need to avoid goals for as long as possible and see if you can avoid a second. For my best bet from the Italian Serie A, I'm going to go with the Como Torino under 2.25. We probably get 2.5 before kickoff. Another under, what a surprise. But Torino don't score goals. And I don't think Como do either. And I still feel like their valuation is ridiculous compared to what they've done in Serie A since they were promoted. Move now to France for Ligue 1, and we'll start with Angers hosting PSG in the opener. And it's an early one starting at 1 p.m. I wonder what competition PSG has coming up that they have to play this early. But right now, the spread is 1.5. PSG 1.5 goal favorites on the road with a lot of juice, probably climbing towards 1.75. We'll see if it gets up to 2. Total is 3, and I'm interested in both the home underdog and the under. Would like to get more on the home underdog, so we'll see if that happens. It should, especially with the European champions and France champions and Coupe de France, I believe, champions that won the treble last season and deserve it for how much they dominated Inter in the Champions League final as well. I think Angers, though, are a competitive team. They've stayed in French League far longer than anyone expected, and they're big underdog at home, and that's where they get their points. Lorient, then a half a goal underdog on the road at Rennes. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's used very heavily to over. I'm still kind of surprised by how much respect Lorient gets, though this number, I guess, is trending towards the number I made. Rennes have been really good, and I've loved backing them at home. There's not a lot for me to do in this one, I don't think, because I don't trust the Lorient defense. To the next on Saturday, Le Havre hosting Monaco. Currently, Le Havre, a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice. Total in this one is 2.75, juiced all the way to over, which is a very, very large number, but that's a lot because of Monaco. I don't really trust them. They've had a really bad season. They've already sacked a manager. I think there's a lot of value on Le Havre as a home underdog. I don't know necessarily that I want to play it just yet. It's very juiced at the moment. Totals are hard to play with Monaco because they can concede. They also can score. I just don't know that I trust what Monaco brought in from Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium. And I feel like they should have stuck with Ali Huta, but I would always say that because I've followed him a long time. To the nightcap on Saturday, Marseille hosts Lens in a big battle at the top of French Ligue 1. Right now, Lens are a half a goal underdog with all the juice. I was kind of stuck between 1/4 and 1/2. I'm very interested in Lens. They're not the same team away from home, but they've been great all season. And Monaco have had some problems, plus also played a big match midweek with Liverpool at home at the Stade Velodrome. I don't know how much that impacts this matchup, but certainly one team will be more fresh. It is the road teams that will be impacted, but I do like Lens a lot in that Saturday night matchup. To Sunday, we have Nantes hosting Nice. Currently, Nantes, a 1/4 goal underdog at home. Somehow Nice are favored, even though we're bottom of the Europa League entering today. They have an extra match that they played today and all those sort of things. But for some reason, Nolt will forever be on my card every week because no one likes them. And as a home underdog, I will be certainly playing that. Maybe to the total under, but I think I just really want to see Nolt beat up on Nice because Nice have been one of the best fades in Europe for sure. European competitions last couple of seasons, but they've not been good in France either. And after a great start last year, somehow held on to Europa League, and I don't really know how they did that. Moving next to Stade Brestois, they're a pick 'em at home to Toulouse. Toulouse, one of the play-to-your competition types, so of course pick them on the road. Total in this one is 2.25, and it's juiced pretty heavily to over. Not that heavily, but it's just over. But it's a small total, I got to say. I made it much bigger. I'm interested in the home team at Pick'em. If Toulouse moves to underdog, we'll see what happens there. And we'll move to another matchup in the onslaught of Sunday matches at 10:15 Central Time, 11:15 Eastern in France. Next matchup is Metz hosting Lyon. Currently Metz at 3/4 goal underdog. Total in this one is 2 3/4, and it chooses split both ways. Lyon entered Europa League match day 7 as the number 1 team in all of the standings. And it's tough to go from there to Metz, especially because Metz are a goal-scoring team. I don't love that certainly don't love that for under because I was expecting that we could potentially get 3 here. I'm interested in the home underdog, but I think I want to see where this number ends up, and I'd love to see it get to a +1. That's probably a buy price for me. FC Paris, another newly promoted, it's gotten a lot of respect. They're a half-a-goal favorite to Angers, who've been in this league for a bunch of years, relegated and then came back and still get no respect. I like Angers. I think they play a very defensive brand. It fits the under and underdog strategy, so give me Angers in that matchup. Last but not least, Lille hosts Strasbourg. Lille coming off the Europa League road trip this week. Strasbourg, half-a-goal underdog with all the juice. Strasbourg, who are in Conference League, didn't play, so that's great for them and helps them a lot for rest reasons. So Strasbourg seemed a little bit interesting to me. Total is 2 3/4, just all the way to under. I think I like the Strasbourg side +1/2 a little bit more. As for my best bet, we'll finally get a side on the list, and that is Lens, a half-a-goal underdog on the road at Marseille. Last but not least, we'll go to German Bundesliga. I want to make sure I forgot to be checking on y'all, but I guess nobody here live. So thanks for watching it afterwards. We've had a ton of hits lately, and I really appreciate it. Going to shout out the new YouTube subscribers, new Patreon subscribers, all those sort of things. End of show. I want to thank you all for your support. We'll move now to the German Bundesliga. We'll start on Friday with St. Pauli hosting Hamburg in a big, big battle in the north of Germany. Big rivalry, 2 clubs that deny the existence of each other, essentially. Hamburg are a favorite, though, at Pick'em with more juice right now. Total is 2, and it's juiced even both ways, down from 2 1/4 just earlier before this podcast began. St. Pauli can't score. They haven't for 2 seasons now, and I don't think things change. Yes, emotional derbies could certainly change that. I think the 2 is the lowest German Bundesliga total I would have ever played in my life, but it's still worth it to me, and I'll probably play it and wait for 2 1/4. It doesn't look like that's happening. I will not lose 2, though, and play 1 3/4. To Saturday, the traditional setup of all the matches at 3:30 local time in Germany. Bayer Leverkusen, a 1-goal favorite to Werder Bremen. Total in this one is 3 1/4, and it's used very heavily to under. So Leverkusen played Champions League midweek. Werder Bremen got the rest and prepare for this matchup. Total's about what I made it. Side's a little bit smaller, so we'll see where this ends up going and finishing. But Leverkusen are tough to fade at home, especially with Werder Bremen's defensive questions. Bayern München, as I'm wearing a long sleeve tee of theirs, bought in the team shop in München. They're hosting Augsburg in a battle of 2 teams that want to play with the football, or at least did to start the year, and then Augsburg fired their manager. Total in this one is 4, juiced evenly both sides. No real indicator where it'll go. I would expect to see bets to the over. Total is 2 3/4, and it's juiced pretty heavily to Augsburg's side, but I wouldn't expect that to stay that way. Moving next to Eintracht Frankfurt. They are a 1/4 goal underdog at home to Hoffenheim, which is saying something. Eintracht coming off of Champions League midweek is not great. Hoffenheim have been great all season, but that price is alarming to me. And probably means I will skip this one because I don't trust the Eintracht Frankfurt defense. Neither apparently does the Bundesliga market. Move next to VfL Wolfsburg on the road at Mainz 05. My favorite manager of all time is managing Mainz 05 after a brief sojourn away from the German Bundesliga after taking Union Berlin to the Champions League, and they weren't able to sustain handling those two competitions, obviously. They are a quarter goal favorite at home to Wolfsburg. All the juice is on Wolfsburg. So I'll wait to see if Mainz fall to a pick'em. Total in this one is 2 3/4, juiced very heavily to under. And I just don't expect goals in Mainz matches. They're going to keep Wolfsburg off the scoreboard for sure. And I like the home underdog. If it gets there, I'll be waiting in the bushes for that one to occur. Next to Heidenheim, a 1-goal underdog at home to RB Leipzig as they try their best to hang on to a German Bundesliga top flight position. Total is 3 in this one, just very heavily to over. At this point, home underdogs of 1 goal are very interesting to me, but I don't know if there's enough for me in that matchup. To the top Spiel, the biggest matchup in Germany on Saturday, and that is Union Berlin hosting Borussia Dortmund. I feel like I've deserved a lot better in these matchups, though certainly if there's a place for Union to beat Dortmund, it would be on the east side of Berlin. Total is 2.5, juiced more to the under, which reflects that Union Berlin type of matchup, especially with Dortmund coming off Champions League midweek. Union Berlin, a 0.5 goal underdog at home. Very interested there. Lean to home dog and under in that matchup. To Sunday, last matchup we'll get to. I don't know, we have two left we'll get to, of course. Traditional German Bundesliga style. Borussia Mönchengladbach, they host VfB Stuttgart. Currently, Gladbach, a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Total in this one is 3, and it's juiced very heavily to over. Stuttgart an over team, so it's hard to want to do anything but that. Gladbach have been playing a lot better after the bottom of the table. And we'll see if they continue that momentum going. And certainly I lean to a home underdog when I got one. Last but not least, Sport Club Freiburg coming off of Europa League midweek. They are a 0.5 goal favorite at home to FC Köln. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced pretty heavily to over right now. All the juice actually is on that side. I feel like Köln have been running out of gas, so we'll see if they are able to keep that up. They're going to a really tough place to play, and I don't want much to do with that one, I must say. For my best bet in the German Bundesliga, I'll come back to an under, and I'll go Wolfsburg visiting Mainz 05. We'll go under 2 3/4. Now it's time for the ultimate best bet. Before we get there, though, I want to shout out some new subscribers. Thank you, of course, for all the support. Of course, it's not always real names, but I'll take them anyway. I got them. Christopher Douglas, Allison McIntyre, Young Realist, Paul Mallon, Fallet Mac, The Dirty Sheets, Alexandro, Vim Vitens, Cedric Vidal. Thank you all for coming in. Jacob Melman, thank you all for coming in and supporting the podcast. I really appreciate that. Also want to shout out a new Patreon subscriber, patreon.com/real_Warner. Best spot to get all my plays across all sports, write-ups, leans every night. And you get to, if you download the app, you can get a notification every time I lock something in. So you get the same price. Mr. Biscuits, excuse me. Thanks for joining the team and look forward to seeing you down the line. It's time for the ultimate best bet. Before we get there, I want to mention the NFL podcast with Andrew Schnicker is out on the Betting Pitch Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. 5-star reviews are huge. If you leave some comments related to the NFL, we will do an extra episode on NFL props for the Super Bowl. Of course, we have one episode coming out left with some Super Bowl picks, of course. But if you want to get ready for championship weekend, check that out. We should have a Big East Ben, the Need for Seeds College Basketball podcast on Friday as well, getting you ready for the Saturday big slate of action, especially when everyone's afraid of Sunday matches or Sunday matchups, games, because they don't want to compete with the NFL. And other than that, stay tuned for more What I Bet on the pregame.com podcast network, as it's my own show that I'm doing every night. I'm going to record it right after this, get you ready for Friday across college basketball and the soccer slate, plus some NFL as well in there, as requested by Sleepy. But it's time for the ultimate best bet, and I'm going to get into it right now. We are 16, 12, and 2, 57% so far on what I've caught up on. Still racing my way through. From the English Premier League, I like Burnley under 2.25 goals. In La Liga in Spain, I like Sevilla under 2.25. In Serie A in Italy, I like Torino under 2.25. In Ligue 1 in France, it's actually a side here. I like Lens, a 0.5 goal underdog. And the German Bundesliga, under 2 3/4 goals. Mainz hosting VfL Wolfsburg. But for the ultimate best bet on this episode, probably if you've been listening, you've noticed a trend, and it's hard for me to go anywhere different, I must say. But Burnley at home to Tottenham, one of the most conservative teams out there, one of the biggest budgets in Tottenham. Burnley with no budget whatsoever, despite JJ Watt and all his money. But we're going under 2.25 in that matchup. Don't see a lot of goals, and that'll be the best bet in this episode. Talk to you all really soon, and thanks for subscribing.
Recording stopped.